When this morning's guest wanted to go to Washington, he first had to go through Galivants Ferry. Meet former Congressman Jenrette on this morning's Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Design It Retail Furniture Gallery on Highway 501 in front of the new Hard Rock Park. We're focused on the Galivants Ferry Stump, which kicks off next Monday. And we're visiting with the Honorable Jenrette Jr., a former member of Congress and a longtime attendee at the Stump. Good morning. You mind if I call you John?
Certainly not. And, 6 days, those of us old political people that get riled up, our stomachs start churning about 6 to 8 days before the Stump. It's something like we're addicted to it somewhat. You go and you see so many people that you haven't seen in so many years, and all of them, they're there because of politics. And so you reminisce and you talk about it. So we just look forward to it. It's I wish it were a 3-day event. If the holidays would open up their home and all and let us come in for 3 days, we'd just have a great time over there. But they've been gracious over the years, and it's wonderful that they are doing that. And as a kid that grew up here and watched the holidays and their businesses and their fine professionalism, and then had the opportunity to meet them and know them and have them as constituents, and hopefully they voted for me once or twice. But anyway, it was fun knowing them, and anyone in politics in the state of South Carolina has got to owe a gratitude to the family for just keeping this going. We used to do 15 or 20 or 30 stump speaking sort of around this county, just this one county, and it got so that there were only a few people going to some of them. So then when television all came along and that cut back, the fact that the holidays bucked all the trends, kept it going, has made it one of the features in the state now, festive sort of features that you just can't miss. If you have any interest in it.
Yesterday highlighting the week away, and obviously hearing her talk about all the stuff that has to happen over the next few days. But you're right, it is truly something that there should be a debt of gratitude from folks all over the state. And friends, I think you mentioned earlier this morning, you've got friends who come from far away to attend.
Yeah, Fort Mill and the Charlotte area, a group comes down every time, and you just see them, and they're just like O'Ree County people because they're here so much. It's great, and I see people every time I go that I haven't seen in years and years and years, and it's a high for me. It really is, just being there and knowing it and thinking about how this thing started, standing on the stump at the water's edge, talking to the people. It's just a magnificent thing. And I always had people, when I was fortunate enough to serve this district in Congress, had people that would come down that wanted to hear about it. And I've told about Galivants Ferry Stump so many times. I had an office in Belarus at one time, and I told some of the Russians that they ought to come over to Galivants Ferry to our stump speaking, that they would become democratic from top to bottom.
They may not have taken you up on it, but at least they heard about it.
No, they finally ran me out of town, but not because of politics, but it was a business thing. But it was fun, and just knowing the people that have been there all these years and how it got started, and I think probably the symbol of if one person was a symbol of the Galivants Ferry Stump, other than the holidays who did it, Senator Hollings, that was so long. He was so close to the holidays. I suspect John Monroe and Fritz did marches together for many years and went to politics, and I imagine when Fritz passes on and gets to heaven, I imagine he and John Monroe will be doing some drills up there. But
1954 was the year, obviously, he kicked off his run for lieutenant governor at the Stump. Yes. And then, of course, in 04, his 50-year celebration, he was there to highlight that. And then even 2 years ago to introduce Senator Biden when he was, if you remember, a very emotional speech about helping to keep him in the U.S. Senate.
It was... he was such a mentor for many of us, certainly for me, and the fact that he was always there. He and John Monroe were such close friends that he would call and the senator would come, and that would bring a lot of people, bring us national attention. And it was just great having him on board to start that. And I just thought the world of him. I still do, and I just look forward to seeing him every time at the Stump, and having the opportunity to serve in Congress with Senator Hollings was a great treat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. John, think about it for you. Do you remember your first Stump experience?
I remember I just received my driver's license, and some men from Loris asked me if I would drive them over. They had some other things they wanted to do while we were riding over, talking business and all. So I drove them over and was just mesmerized at all those people there talking. I said, man, you know, I might ought to do this one day.
That may have kicked off your political bug.
It may have. It may
wow.
have. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know that I've missed over one or two since that time.
Since the 50s, you mentioned. Yeah.
I probably have been there about as many as anyone living now.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them went a lot more than me, but it's, as I say, as a political junkie, I just love it.
Of course, Russell mentioned yesterday a lot of Republicans will be there. They won't be up on the platform speaking of the group, but you probably see a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle.
I do, and it's we enjoy them coming out because we know that they need help, and what little tidbits they can get from the Galivants Ferry Stump, if they are elected, will help them be better representatives or better servants for the people.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
you know, they get some. The Galivants Ferry Stump has got a lot of issues that pass through if you just sit there and listen to those guys.
Right.
Some of them, I mean, I've heard some with such off-wall things that they probably shouldn't have been there, and that's probably me sometimes too. But and then you've heard people would come up with some proposals that you hadn't thought of that are really good. They have a chance to express it before people and to try to get their point across. So it's a give and take, an opportunity for the people to see, you know, if a guy or girl has not run for office before, and they have to get up there before that crowd of people and make their case as their first time they've done something.
Right.
It's experience they'll never forget, and I've seen a lot of them that were shaking like everything when they were standing up there. Because it was and I know the first time I was there, when I spoke, my stomach was churning, and it still does. When you get up there and you think about the history that has been, all of the people that have been there, that have led this state, have done such good, William Brennan, Brian Dorn, all of these people that have made such a great history for South Carolina. It is just, you can't find that anywhere else. You can speak in an auditorium anywhere, but if you had the trucks passing by, you got to modulate your tone to let people know you're hearing you.
Right.
You hear the people coming down the river, the boats coming down the river. Oh, it's a great thing, and
very powerful experience.
It is, and the church serves chicken bog. I remember I had Tom Foley, the Speaker of the House.
No.
And he wasn't able to come to that, but I took him some chicken bog from the Stump, and he called me that afternoon and said, John, said, tell me now, said, what is in this chicken bob?
Chicken bob.
Chicken bob, yeah, chicken bob. He enjoyed it and had great experience out there. Took chicken bob from Galivants Ferry to Tip O'Neill, who was one of my dearest friends, and it was easy to get Tip to come. I'm sorry he wasn't able to come to the Stump because as a member of Congress, we run every 2 years. So in May, when we were having the Stump, he was campaigning in Boston, but. He loved the chicken bog. He just loved the chicken bog. He loved coming down here because he's a great golfer, and we had all these golf courses. And John Monroe, they'd give him passage to play at Myrtle Beach National and some of the places they had. So he was a great friend.
I love it, John. I'm sure you've got some great memories of both John Monroe and Joseph Holliday, the two patriarchs. For years now, it's matriarchs and others. Visiting with Russell yesterday, and of course even more generations. They're passing on to the fifth generation now.
Isn't that something?
But probably some exciting memories of time with those men.
I guess probably they, as gracious as they are the whole family, they don't mind asking you for things. They don't mind asking you for help in politics or something like that because they are doing it for the good of the community, and they know that they had the polishedness of to go to Washington and everything. One day we were I was on the Appropriations Committee, and the Sergeant at Arms came up and said, there are two gentlemen out in the hall, and said they need to see you. and it was a day that we were having nothing but amendments, but the amendments were on NASA, on the space station, and about the next trip to the moon.
Right.
And the first thing that came to my mind said John Monroe and Joseph Holliday out in the hall. First thing they wanted me to get them a seat in the committee room because it was packed, and that wasn't a problem. But I got them in, and I sat there for about an hour. We motioned each other, everything. And I said, you know, we taking amendments about going to the moon. I said, you think those two fellas in here want me to make sure that there's a sign saying the moon? But don't forget Galivants Ferry, Stump speaking, Galivants Ferry, South Carolina, a sign on the moon. Scared me to death for an hour, but when I finally finished the meeting and got out, it was a totally different matter they had. But I thought sure that whole thing, how am I going? I can't get it passed.
Yeah.
I couldn't say no to them, but I know that I couldn't get it passed because everybody wants something on the moon if you did. But that was I thought about that. I never told them that, but it was
You never shared with them that
no,
you were sweating bullets.
I didn't. Because heck, I think they'd have probably asked me to do it if
if you'd given them the idea, right?
But I did sweat that, and I remember meetings with Senator Hollings. I remember with the holidays at one of the homes when they were thinking about strategy for running, and it was a place that politics was abound. If you were around those guys, particularly this time of the year, it was politics. Oh, yeah. I'm better for having the experiences I've had at Galivants Ferry. It's wonderful.
You know, I was so fascinated reading a little about you, John, and to see the experiences for you back in, you think about it, was at 72 maybe, where you had overtaken a long time, was it 16-term congressman in the primary, of course, ultimately losing to Ed Young, coming back to get him in 74. I mean, coming back to reclaim that opportunity in 74, and then successfully running for multiple terms there. But that experience for you back in 72, stepping out of the state legislature stage and determining that you wanted to serve a much larger populace. What was that like for you, John?
Well, the first thing, I knew I could do it when I did the first poll, and so I had a 3% recognition factor. I knew I had it made. 3%.
Wow.
3%. The gentleman that I defeated was a fine gentleman and a very good friend of the Holidays.
16 terms.
16.
Yeah.
He was in Washington the year I was born.
Wow.
And I had run his campaign or helped run his campaign a number of times, and I told him I wanted to be in Congress. And in this beautiful furniture store we're sitting now, I'll never forget, I was driving Congressman Millen across this 501 bridge. And he said to me, 2 years before, he said, "This is my last term," and he knew I was going to run. We were coming across this bridge right out in front of this store, and he said, "I've had so many people come in to want me to run again. I just wanted to tell you I think I'm gonna run again." Well, I had to drive him to Conway to a meeting, and I didn't like it a bit after that. I got really upset because I thought we had an understanding, and I came back across this bridge and let him off at his car. He said, "Now, 2 years from now, I won't be running."